For years, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were Hollywood's picture-perfect couple, the glamorous actress and the charming country music star who seemed to have it all. From red carpets to heartfelt interviews, they appeared deeply in love, inseparable, and destined for a fairy tale ending. But behind the smiles and the soft-spoken declarations of devotion, there were cracks quietly forming, cracks that neither fame nor fortune could fix. When news of their split broke, fans were stunned. How could a couple who once gushed about each other in every interview fall apart so completely? For the first time, Nicole Kidman decided to tell her side of the story, and what she revealed about her marriage to Keith Urban left the world speechless. In her rare and brutally honest reflections, Nicole didn't hold back. She spoke of hidden struggles, emotional distance, and the toll that fame and addiction took on their love. Her words exposed a truth far more painful and complicated than anyone expected. This isn't the story of a celebrity breakup. It's the story of two people trying to build a life under the blinding spotlight, where every smile hides a secret and every silence speaks volumes. What Nicole finally revealed about her years with Keith Urban wasn't revenge. It was release. From the passion that drew them together to the heartbreak that tore them apart. This is the real story of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, and the shocking truth she could no longer keep to herself. When Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban first met in 2005 at the G-Day USA Gala in Los Angeles, the chemistry between them was immediate, quiet, genuine, and deeply magnetic. Nicole had already been through one of the most high-profile marriages and divorces in Hollywood history with Tom Cruise, and she was cautious, even fragile. Keith, meanwhile, was the rugged Australian musician who'd conquered Nashville with his voice and charm, but was secretly battling his own inner demons. From the outside, they seemed destined for each other. Two Australians making it big in America, both at the peak of their careers, both carrying emotional scars they rarely discussed. When Keith sent Nicole flowers just days after their first meeting, she later said it was the gesture that stole her heart. Within a year, they were married in a romantic ceremony in Sydney, a love story that felt almost cinematic. The world was captivated. On red carpets, their connection was undeniable. Hands intertwined, soft glances exchanged like something out of a dream.
Keith wrote love songs inspired by Nicole, while she described him as her great love and safe place. To fans,
it was a story of second chances, a woman who had endured heartbreak, finally finding the happiness she deserved. But behind the glitz and glamour, things weren't as perfect as they appeared. Within months of their wedding, Keith checked himself into rehab for substance abuse, a struggle he had hidden from Nicole until it could no longer be ignored. While she stood by him publicly, privately she was shattered. "I thought love could fix everything," she reportedly confided to a close friend. But sometimes love just isn't enough. Still, Nicole didn't walk away. Her loyalty ran deep. She became his biggest supporter during his recovery, attending counseling sessions and staying by his side when he relapsed. The couple renewed their vows quietly, determined to rebuild what fame and addiction had nearly destroyed. "We've been through hell and back," Keith later admitted, "but she saved me." For a time, it seemed like they had triumphed over their demons. They welcomed two daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, and moved into a quiet life in Tennessee, far from Hollywood's constant scrutiny. They spoke openly about therapy, love, and forgiveness, painting a picture of redemption that inspired fans worldwide. Yet even in this apparent calm, cracks lingered beneath the surface. Keith's demanding touring schedule often kept him away from home for months, while Nicole's film commitments took her across continents. Rumors of strain began to circulate, whispers of growing emotional distance. While they dismissed the gossip as nonsense, those close to them noticed subtle changes, shorter public appearances together, fewer interviews as a couple, and an almost visible sadness in Nicole's eyes during press events. Friends say Nicole's patience was immense, but her spirit had grown weary. She wanted stability, one insider shared. She wanted someone who would stay, not someone always chasing the next stage, the next concert, the next thrill. Behind closed doors, she struggled with loneliness, a feeling she knew all too well from her first marriage. The love was still there, but the connection that once anchored them was slowly slipping away. By the late 2010s, Keith's continued touring and Nicole's focus on her film career had turned their lives into two parallel paths that rarely crossed. Though they smiled for cameras, something had shifted irreversibly. Nicole's heartbreak was quiet but deep, and she began to reflect on the patterns she could no longer ignore. To the world, they were still Hollywood's golden couple. But to Nicole, it had become clear that sometimes the fairy tale ends long before anyone notices. And the hardest part isn't losing someone else. It's losing yourself in the process. To the outside world, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban embodied perfection. A timeless love story between two successful artists who somehow managed to balance fame, family, and devotion. But behind that polished image, their marriage was slowly unraveling under the weight of secrets, silence, and emotional exhaustion. Nicole had always been a private person. After her painful and very public divorce from Tom Cruise, she swore to protect her personal life from the glare of the media. With Keith, she wanted normalcy, dinners at home, time with their daughters, and quiet mornings on the porch. But normalcy was nearly impossible when one partner's life was built around the chaos of fame. Keith's charm was irresistible, but it came with shadows. Even after rehab, the temptations of touring life followed him everywhere. Long nights, relentless travel, and an entourage that often encouraged his old habits. While he stayed sober for years, Nicole often felt she was walking on eggshells, terrified that one wrong turn could send everything crashing down. "I lived in fear, not of him, but of losing him," she once admitted to a friend. It's hard to love someone who keeps slipping away. Their communication began to falter. Keith, passionate and spontaneous, often dismissed Nicole's need for emotional depth as overthinking. Nicole, thoughtful and introspective, felt increasingly unseen. She would try to talk about her feelings, a close friend revealed, but he'd change the subject, make a joke, or retreat into his music. What the world saw as a power couple was, in truth, two lonely souls drifting further apart. The strain grew worse as Nicole's acting career entered a new renaissance. Her roles in Big Little Lies and The Undoing demanded emotional vulnerability, something that began to mirror her real life. She channeled her private pain into her performances, often admitting in interviews that art was her therapy. But those who knew her best could tell. The line between acting and reality was starting to blur. Meanwhile, Keith threw himself into touring and recording, perhaps to escape the growing tension at home. The more time he spent on the road, the more Nicole felt the gap widening. "We'd talk on the phone, and it felt like talking to a stranger," she confided during one emotional conversation. He was there, but not really there. The media began to sense something was wrong. Paparazzi caught moments that hinted at unease. Nicole's distant expression at events, Keith's absences at major premieres, and carefully worded interviews that avoided direct questions about their relationship. Still, both continued to present a united front, smiling for cameras, holding hands, and insisting everything was fine. But behind those red carpet smiles, Nicole had begun to feel trapped in a familiar pattern. Her marriage with Tom Cruise had once revolved around control and public image. Now, with Keith, it was emotional disconnection and unspoken pain. She loved him deeply, said one friend, but she was tired of being the one who kept everything together. As the years passed, Nicole began to reclaim her sense of self. She focused on her daughters, her faith, and her work. She started to realize that love, no matter how strong, couldn't thrive without honesty. "You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved," she reportedly told a confidant. When the couple quietly separated, it wasn't with anger or betrayal. It was with exhaustion. Nicole had given everything she could, and though she remained gracious in public, those close to her say she finally found peace in letting go. What came next shocked everyone. For the first time, Nicole spoke candidly about what truly went on behind closed doors, and the truth she revealed about her marriage left fans speechless. When Nicole Kidman finally decided to speak out, It wasn't in a dramatic press conference or an explosive tell-all interview. It was quiet, honest, and devastatingly human. After years of protecting her private life, she finally lifted the curtain on the truth behind her marriage to Keith Urban. In a rare interview with a close friend-turned-journalist, Nicole began by reflecting on the beginning, how she believed Keith had saved her. "When I met him," she said softly, "I was broken in ways people couldn't see. He was light, laughter, and music. I thought he would heal me. But sometimes, love doesn't fix what's already cracked." Nicole revealed that, behind their glamorous image, they were living very different lives. While she craved stability and connection, Keith thrived on chaos and performance. "He loved deeply," she said, "but he loved the stage more. That's not a criticism, and it's who he is. The world is his audience, and sometimes I just didn't fit in that space." Her words weren't bitter. They were filled with quiet acceptance. She described nights of waiting up for phone calls that never came, long tours that stretched into months, and the ache of pretending everything was fine for the cameras. "People think fame protects you from loneliness," she sighed. "It doesn't. Sometimes it isolates you even more." One of the most painful revelations came when she spoke about emotional distance. "We stopped talking about real things," she said. "We could talk about the kids, the schedules, the press, but not about us. Every time I tried, it became a fight or a silence. And silence can be louder than shouting." Nicole admitted that she had reached a breaking point. The turning moment came during filming for Big Little Lies. The role of Celeste, a woman trapped in a beautiful but painful relationship, mirrored her own reality too closely. "I would come home after filming and just sit in the dark," she confessed. "That show forced me to see that love shouldn't hurt, even in silence." But Nicole's confession wasn't about blame. She made it clear she didn't view Keith as a villain. "He has a beautiful heart," she said. "Addiction, pressure, fame, they change a person. I've seen his battles, and I've seen his effort to be better. But sometimes, effort isn't enough when love starts to fade." Her honesty struck a chord with fans around the world. Many praised her courage for speaking without anger or revenge, showing that even the strongest marriages can break quietly. Others were heartbroken. The couple had seemed unshakable. Nicole also spoke about the lessons she learned from both of her marriages. "With Tom, I learned how power can hide pain. With Keith, I learned that love can't survive without communication. You can lose yourself trying to save someone, and when you do, you have to find your way back." She described how, after the separation, she found healing through her daughters, her faith, and her work. "I realized my happiness couldn't depend on anyone else. I had to choose peace over pretending." When asked if she still loved Keith, Nicole smiled wistfully. "Love doesn't disappear," she said. "It changes. I'll always care for him. He was a huge part of my life. But sometimes, loving someone means letting them go." Her revelation wasn't explosive. It was profound. It reminded the world that even those who seem to have it all are still fragile, still searching for meaning behind the fame. Nicole closed the interview with words that resonated deeply. "We both tried, and that matters." But sometimes love isn't about forever. It's about what it teaches you before it ends. When Keith Urban finally responded to Nicole Kidman's emotional revelations, fans were bracing themselves for a defensive statement or public denial. Instead, what they received was something entirely unexpected, a confession that revealed the pain, regret, and vulnerability behind the man who had once seemed untouchable. Keith's response came during a live radio interview in Nashville, where he was asked, almost cautiously, about Nicole's recent comments. The air grew still as he paused for a long time before speaking. "You know," he began softly, "there are things you never want to face because you already know the truth deep down." Nicole didn't lie. She never did. Those words alone silenced the room. For the first time, Keith admitted that fame had taken more from him than it had given. "Music is my heart," he said, "but it's also my addiction. I thought I could balance it, being a husband, a father, and an artist. But I wasn't honest about how lost I was. I thought love could fix me, but I kept running from it." He spoke about how his touring lifestyle and long nights away had built an invisible wall between them. When you're on the road, you start living two different lives, he confessed. She'd be home trying to keep things normal for the kids, and I'd be somewhere across the world, trying to keep the crowd happy. Somewhere in between, we lost the rhythm we used to have. Keith didn't shy away from taking responsibility for the breakdown. He talked openly about his battles with addiction and how they resurfaced during the quieter moments of marriage. It's strange, he said. When you're performing, everyone cheers for you. When the lights go out, the silence can be brutal. I didn't know how to live in that silence, and that's where I started to lose her. What truly struck listeners was Keith's tone, not one of self-pity, but of quiet remorse. He described Nicole as the strongest person I've ever known, and admitted that her calmness during their hardest moments often made him feel even more guilty. She loved me at my worst, he said, and I think that's what hurts the most, knowing I couldn't give her the same kind of love back when she needed it. For many fans, his next words were the most emotional. When she walked away, I didn't blame her. I blame myself, because sometimes the person you love leaves not because they stopped loving you, but because they can't keep losing themselves trying to save you. Keith revealed that he still watches Nicole's films and keeps photos of their family in his studio. I still write songs about her, he admitted quietly. Not out of regret, but out of gratitude. She gave me love, a home, and the courage to face my demons. You don't forget someone who gives you that. He also offered a message to fans who romanticized celebrity marriages. Don't look at our pictures and think that's real life. Real love is messy, it hurts. And when it ends, there's no villain. Sometimes, it's just two good people who couldn't make forever work. When the interview ended, Keith's voice cracked slightly as he concluded, "If she's happier now, then I'm proud of her. That's all I ever wanted." The clip spread across social media within hours. Fans flooded the comments with heartbreak and admiration. Many said they had never seen Keith so open or vulnerable. Some even speculated that beneath the sadness, his words hinted at a lingering love, one that might never fade. For both Keith and Nicole, their story had moved beyond blame or bitterness. It had become something deeper, a reminder that love, even when it ends, can leave behind compassion instead of resentment. And as the music world listened to Keith's trembling voice fade out on air, one truth became clear: some goodbyes aren't the end. They're just the final verse of a song that once meant everything.